This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
Back in studio with Philippe Silvestre and Sonia Dale from Neurokinetics Clinic in Vancouver. We're talking brain conditions, and specifically today, we're talking about migraines. And one of the things that, Sonia, you've helped us understand is the process at Neurokinetics Clinic of new patients and the assessment program that you, of course, there is the initial inquiry,
Yes.
and you're good with talking to a lot of people, so you and your team speaking to people and giving them basic information about what it is you might be able to do to help them.
Yes.
But then you need to get them into the clinic and see them and this assessment process. And Philippe, I wanted to ask you about this brain optimization consultation. That's the first of the 3 series of assessment interviews that you've described earlier. But we talked also about triggers and how migraine sufferers are there are certain things that just set them off. And in some cases, your years of experience will validate this, weird light patterns or flashes will trigger a migraine episode in some people. So when you're in the brain optimization consultation process, do you put these people through some of those imaginary triggers to see what works or what will fire off something, or do you just rely on their word? How does that assessment process go?
Okay, this is a very good question because it ties with the principles of what is a migrainous condition as well as what are the paradigms we are using.
Okay.
It is all about threshold of sensitivities
Yes.
that will trigger a migrainous response in given circumstances.
Right.
So to make a long story short, our protocol is a dual protocol. We assess the patient with measuring neurophysiological parameters, which are combined with Oriental medical data and Western medical data,
Okay.
and which are physiology. It's all about physiology here, which are the mechanism of life and behavior and performance, underlying performance. And beside that, we have also ways to stimulate very gently, subliminally, forgive the complexity of the term here, but which means below the threshold of sensing them.
Okay.
So
you're not bombarding them with strobe lights or any of that sort of thing?
No.
Okay.
No, that would not meet the purpose of understanding what we need to understand.
Well, and plus the fact that I'm sure the last thing anyone wants is the trigger of an actual migraine episode while undergoing an assessment process.
Exactly, yeah. So we are subliminal, which means we are below the threshold that would trigger a physiological migrainous response.
Okay.
Those patients are extremely sensitive to anything or most of everything. And sometimes they, even after years and years of migrainous problems, they don't, some triggers are not well identified.
Right.
It's
right.
It's a touchy domain. It's very sensitive.
So is part of the 12-week process of therapy that you were discussing earlier, is part of that addressing those triggers and teaching your brain to reject them?
No, it's not about teaching. It is, I would say, liberating the brain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Migraines comes from sensory conflicts, sensory cognitive conflicts, which are now better understood and better identified as well.
Right.
I have been working on migraines for over 30 years with passion, because it is also touching a lot of brain controls which underlie a lot of activities, whether physical, cognitive, which is about perceiving and processing in the brain, but also underlying emotional stability, intellectual performance, and executive performance. So it ties with those mechanisms that underlie brain physiology at work, basically. And from there, we are or we are not in a given condition that would prevent us to achieve what we want to achieve.
Earlier you described your understanding of migraines and how it's changed from your days in France in medical school before you joined the Air Force as a doctor and now. Because now we're talking a few decades here. You said that your understanding of the entire migraine condition has completely evolved over time. Has Canada caught up to you in terms of your understanding? Does the Western medical practitioner have he or she evolved to the point where you have in terms of the ability to understand migraines in the context of a bigger picture?
Yeah, progress has been made. There is no doubt about that, whether in Western medicine or even in Oriental medicine. So
Right.
progress has been achieved, and there is still a great need to do better further.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah.
Sonia, one thing I wanted to ask you about, because we all know someone. Everyone listening right now knows someone who gets migraines. And so we have some degree of understanding as to the awfulness of it, because it's just no fun ever. But what we don't understand is how physically debilitating it can be. And I'm sure some people who arrive at for your assessments after speaking to you on the phone show up and you go, my gosh, what a frail person. They've just been worn down to next to nothing by this condition that's just robbed them of a lot of their physical wellness. Is that the case more often than not, or is it pretty rare? Talk to us about the physical effects of migraines.
It does affect them. Having themselves like going back to the, I believe it was in segment 1 that you were discussing with of one of your friends, going back, cornering themselves in a room, in a dark area, isolating themselves from the world.
Yep.
So they come, and it also affects, a lot of patients come in, it affects down to their self-esteem.
Sure.
They come in with low self-esteem because they can't attend, functions. They can't do things with their children when they have these certain things. They
Right.
can't go to, a different outing, even work. Stats looking back, I know in Canada there's 1 in 4 in household members that suffer from migraines.
Mm-hmm.
There's about 7 million work days that are missed from Canadians on its own. So migraines are quite big. They're huge.
Right.
Yes.
And so, Philippe, when people come to you, are you surprised? I suppose you've been at this a long time, but does it still surprise you how physically worn down some people can get with migraines?
It can be devastating. It has prevented migrainous patients sometimes to accomplish the career of their dream.
Mm-hmm.
It can be very debilitating, and it is also places those patients in zones where they are totally unsure when the next crisis will come up.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
So they live in a fear of the next crisis.
Sure.
And it is heartbreaking to see.
Right. And so what you can offer in addition to a therapeutic program is hope. The fact that right from that first telephone call, Sonia, people call you up literally at the end of their tether. They've been around the block so many times they've lost track.
Yes.
And they call you up and you're friendly and positive and say, come on down. We'll have a look. We'll have a talk. There is hope. Don't give up yet. Come see us.
There's clarity is what I hear a lot. Thank you for providing the clarity. Thank you for lifting. The burden is gone. They're feeling stress-free. They're feeling someone is there to listen to them, that understands them.
Right. And so with that in mind, Philippe, even though you dislike the word cure, I think in terms of hope, real, legitimate hope, I think that people who are listening to us right now who are either suffering from migraines themselves or, as I said earlier, we all know someone who is, if it doesn't happen to us personally, should probably spread the word that, there is hope. This is not a condition that you have to manage at best for the rest of your earthly days. It can be much better than that.
Yeah, we know very well that what is behind a migrainous crisis or spell is placed in brain. It is a brain manifestation.
Right.
Which can be triggered by sensory stimulation, which will be reaching and far beyond the normal threshold of coping capabilities for a given, states of physical state or
friends, on previous episodes of Boomer Life involving our friends from Neurokinetics, we've heard from former patients who have said, actually, quote, and this is a direct quote, I just should have gone to see you people in the first place. I would have had a whole lot more fun for a couple of lost years there. And that's generally the situation. Neurokinetics Clinic, by the way, friends, is in the Highcroft Medical Center building in Vancouver at 3195 Granville Street. And if you want to check them out online, and Sonia's number and Philippe's number and email and all the contact points are on the website at neurokinetics.com. Dr. Philippe and Sonia, lovely to see you again.
Likewise.
We'll come see you again in a month.
It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. We'll see you next time right here on Boomer Life.